All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Soccer Talk Lads podcast, the STL podcast. It's me, Justin Horneker, leading the way this week. Steven is off gallivanting in Miami. I assume on the Bobby Firmino watch, but we'll wait till he comes back to get the official report. Ian, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Is Messi in Miami? Is he made his way over to Florida?
I haven't received correspondence from Steven, so I can't say for sure if he has or not. But if anyone is likely to run into Messi, it's Steven Ground.
That's right. We are the MLS podcast that will most certainly get him first.
Yes. We will have that scoop.
Combined, we speak one grade's worth of Spanish.
Oh my God. Like, Duolingo sent me an email the other day that Duo was mad at me. And I, for a second, had like this ping of anxiety before I realized that it's just an app that I shouldn't be worried about its opinion on me.
But it is an owl app, so it matters
Oh,
more. It matters
yes.
extra.
I need to get back into it. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I can't have that being mad at me. Speaking of owls, some of them may have gotten blown away this weekend as St. Louis
Oh,
lost
so true.
a big win against Cincinnati, 5-1 after a 2+ hour rain delay. I spent my rain delay at Beffa's waiting for, I don't know, my dad and his friends to get collectively more drunk as the time passed by. Ian, how did you spend your rain delay?
I spent it in the dark with no power.
Nice.
Just
Sick.
as good, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think I was gonna be able to watch this game because I feel like I have really bad luck with power outages earlier in my life. I feel like we got like one or two a summer, and at least one of them would be like 2 days or something.
Oh, that's
Thankfully,
rough.
that has not happened recently, but I have PTSD, so I just assumed I wouldn't be able to watch the game. But it
Yeah,
came back like 10 minutes before they started.
just ingrained in you now. I didn't realize because I think like I and in all St. Louisans are so used to tornado warnings. Like
Mhm.
I've slept through them before. Like it's not
Oh
something
yeah,
that ever worries me. But they were talking on extra time this week, like it was some crazy thing that people waited around during the tornadoes. It's like, no, this is just it's nothing. It was like
oh
miles away from us. We're okay.
oh yeah. So no, it was so for me, it was technically close. It was like I don't know, 3 miles south of me. Like that, there was a what do they call it? A funnel cloud. I don't think
Yeah.
it touched down or anything. But anyways,
I
I
think it
still I still
might
don't
have
give a
touched
shit.
down. Yeah, I think Valley Park did confirm. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
a meteorologist yet. Don't hold
I
me to
was
it.
I was like I still didn't care. My wife is not from the Midwest,
Mm,
and she was very scared, and she did not enjoy that I was like whatever. The
like
sirens are going off, and I was like, yeah. Until a window breaks open,
yeah,
even then I was like, just
it's either gonna sweep me up or it's not. You
yeah,
know.
pretty much. I was like, look, I gotta see the tornado heading for me before I get into like a small room in the basement. It's okay.
I think one of my
Yeah,
issues is that Twister played such a big part of my childhood. We used to watch
right.
that movie on like road trips.
Yeah, see, I feel like either that desensitizes you, especially if you're from the Midwest, or if you're not, you just
Yeah,
think that's what it is. You think that's the tornado every time is
they were
sweeping up cows and
right.
throwing them miles away.
They were talking about what they were doing in the locker room ahead of this game. They were talking about playing chess, watching MLS games. Like I think that they should have thrown on Twister and everyone just watched that while they're waiting.
I do wonder. I mean, like, are tornadoes prevalent in Europe? Like,
So we talked about this after the game a bit. It
yeah.
was asked, we asked Edvard Ludvin, who said that no, they do not have them. They have high winds, they said, but they don't have tornadoes necessarily.
I was going to wait for him to say some sort of German word that is a tornado, but
Yeah,
he's like, well, yeah, over there they go the other way
we
though.
got like
So
twisties or something.
yeah, it's like we're like we don't have hurricanes in Thailand. We have typhoons. I'm like that's the same thing.
Same thing. It's the same thing. You just call them a different thing. Uh,
Interesting. Well, that would have been scary. I would think for like I don't know, half that team then. That
yeah.
seems a little scary.
Yeah, I don't know how I would react to that as someone who is like just plopped down in a different culture. Like I know that they're probably well taken care of and well like made aware of what is happening. But
Yeah.
Klaus and Ludwig did say they wanted to go outside and take a look at it. So I thought that was cool.
I like how they're the opposite end of the spectrum. Like, we have no concept of tornadoes, so I do not fear them.
I do not fear. And Klaus doesn't fear anything. If
That's
anything, the
right.
tornado feared him, which is
That's
why it
true.
stayed so far away from downtown.
That's right. He's probably just as tall as the tornado.
Yeah, so they contributed their locker room environment, which was not watching Twister, to how they were able to come out so hot. They did. St. Louis City score a goal in the 3rd minute from Jared Stroud. This is a pretty much a, like, I know that Cincinnati were missing Brenner, they were missing Acosta, but this is a statement game, I thought, from this team coming down from losing 2 in a row.
I had no idea that they were this good. I assumed because they were a terrible expansion team that
Mm.
they were still bad. But no, I like it's you play who you play, even if they're down some of their best players.
Mm.
It's still like a very good squad that you're playing against, and like you said, especially after losing 2 in a row, your first losing streak in franchise history, and you come home and you're able to turn around in like such commanding fashion that yeah, I was kind of blown away because I missed the first goal because it was like 2 minutes in.
Mm.
I turned it on and I caught the Leuven goal. And then I was like, well, there you go. That's 2 goals. That's pretty good. And then I didn't expect there to be 3 more scored.
Yeah,
Even in that, like even another one in the half. It was, I don't know, it's just a very commanding performance. The more this happens, the more I'm starting to believe that I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't like a flash in the pan.
the more they're convincing you that they're actually a good team.
Mm-hmm.
The Ludwig goal was cool too because he had, like, right before this, I didn't mark down the times. I'd have to go back and watch. But he had 2 free kicks, like from dangerous areas, like a little offside the corner of the box that he like curled into the corner or saved pretty, just like pushed wide. And it seemed like he was just like really dialed in. So you see him step into that shot and just curl it into the corner. It was very beautiful.
Yeah, I thought like the whole sequence, I feel like they talked a lot on the broadcast about like they'd highlight the goal and they talk, well, there's kind of a deflection here and there
Mm.
and yada yada. And I was like, I don't care. I don't need the cleanest goals. Um, some of them they're ball luck, I guess we call it, like, getting to our players. But I also think like if you're in the right position, right, in order to make
Yeah.
that happen anyways.
Yeah. Like, so it falls to Giochini and Giochini like takes a good shot at it, but the deflection is like perfectly placed in Ludvin's like trajectory as he's running. So it's just added to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then right before half, they get a 3rd goal. This one from Kyle Hebert off another like beautiful Jared Stroud cross. That guy was just having a hell of a game. Really, our entire midfield was just outplayed Cincinnati, but put us up 3-0 right before the half. And like at that point, it was probably the best half that I've seen them play so far. Like,
And they've had some good ones too. I mean, up
yeah,
until this point.
and I think that's like taking into fact they did it against Cincinnati too. I think is big.
On that 3rd goal, I love that flick by Klaus, like to Stroud or whatever, because I was like, oh, just I don't know, just the wherewithal to not, I think as the announcers were saying, like put it pretty much back, like right in the box in the blender of bodies where someone's just going to get a foot on it and kick it out of there. And it's like, okay, I'm going to take it out wide. It might feel like that's less threatening, but like you have it in a better position to like line that shot up for Stroud.
Yeah, and Stroud like makes a little bit of room for himself too, and before he like slots it in. So yeah,
He's
it was
crafty.
beautiful around.
He's a very crafty player.
I watched him and I watched Vasilev and Giochini too, and I just don't understand like why these teams were so willing to leave them unprotected.
They were diamonds in the rough. They gel here. They synergize here better.
Yeah, like I struggle with like, does that say more about Bradley Cardell getting more out of them, or is this like other teams just sucking at talent?
That's right. We're the expansion team that recovers players that are works in progress and brings them their full potential.
Dust them off, get them healthy.
That's right. I'm trying to keep myself from referencing a hockey team that's done that. So
it's okay. That doesn't count. That doesn't count as a reference. It's 0. We're at 0 references still for everyone keeping track.
0.
All right, so second half starts. FC Cincinnati make changes. Marco Angulo comes on for Nick Haglund, who had a pretty bad half. And then Dominic Baggi comes on also. Does not help right away as Nico Giochini gets probably like the ideal City goal here for the 4th goal, in that like John Nelson collects the ball, sends in an overtop ball for like Rasmus Holm, who's making a diagonal, and he just like flicks it onto Giochini, who's running right next to Klaus. and then like Calentano has to respect Klaus on the outside too, and then he just holds off the defender and puts it in. And it's just like if you were to write up how this team wants to score, it's that goal right there.
Yeah, I thought that was like pretty quick movement up the field by like Nelson and like the whole midfield. It was just like a very quick turnover and straight towards their box. Like it was, I don't know. It was one of those things where like you see it developing, and you're like, I can see how this could be a goal, and then you're like, oh, and there it was. I can't believe it happened.
And it's in.
Yeah, like and yeah, there's that touch by Alm to like kind of split the two defenders and put it right in front of Gioacchini was excellent. Like I just think we have so many midfielders that have like just a very nice idea of where folks are on the field all the time. I feel like no one really ever is like out of place or sending like a ball into areas where there's just like nobody there.
Yeah, or if it is wayward, it's like you're expecting someone to make a run into that area.
Right.
I also thought that he was going to lay it off to Klaus on this one, so it was nice to see them like celebrate into the corner together.
They want to get that Klaus goal. Look, he doesn't have a goal per game anymore, and that's bad.
Mm-hmm. He wanted one bad. We'll talk about this at the end of the game, but he like took 3 straight shots and like he just could not will it in.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive.
So shortly after this, after the Gioacchini goal, I think it was Alm again who gets on the end of a ball and like kind of curls it off the post, and it just redirects off of Celentano's back and into the goal, which is just like a demoralizing way to get scored on, I think.
I know, I was like, the disrespect. Like it's unlucky times with the ball, and I know you're already down. It's still like 4-0 or whatever at this point, and it's like, what are you gonna do? But at the same time, it's just like, oh, that's too bad. Like it was even a post shot, so like quote unquote the goal even chose the right way and everything. Yeah. So like I don't really blame him at all, but it's like, oh, it's
perfect balance. And
I'd be angry as a soccer player now if this bounces off the post and hits somebody and goes in. I mean, I guess you've put your team ahead and everyone knows that's what you did, but on the stat sheet, it's not my goal.
I get mad about own goals in general. I feel like they aren't okay. I'll throw out the first hockey reference of the podcast. I like how in hockey, if like it's an own goal, it just goes off. Like the person that gets credit for is the last person to touch it, or be like around it. Right. And soccer is so much more unforgiving with that. It's like if it's even close to not being on net and it gets redirected, it's an own goal.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, what if you're like a goalie and you're like reaching out and it just like clips you and then it deflects in, underneath you or something? It's like, is that an own goal because you touched it?
It's like if they deem it to not be going on net and it got like influenced by a defender, by the goalkeeper, they'll call it an own goal, which I feel like is just not fair to the attackers. Really.
I know. I was like, I'm more curious just about getting those numbers bumped
up. Right, get those bonus numbers up. Like somebody's losing out on $100,000 because some goalkeeper knocked into his own net.
Yeah, I still want own goals tracked. I just don't want it to subtract from someone else's points. I still want to be able to look up who like what shitty goalie let in so many goals on shots that weren't going on net. And be like, wow, this guy really blows. This was just a funny goal because I would just remember thinking like, are we gonna score like any more? Is this gonna be like, we're at 5, can we get to like 7?
It's like a 9-goal game.
Yeah.
I did so shortly after this goal, Isaac Jensen comes in, Samir Pedro gets his first run out, and I actually liked a lot of what Pedro did in this game. So I like seeing the longer run out because I think both those players are pretty good. They just don't get, like, obviously John Nelson is in the form of his life right now, so Pedro has been struggling for playing time, and with the U.S. Open Cup game coming out, they wanted to give those guys run-ups. But Ian, what do you think about? I know Jensen had a pretty good play, like towards the end of the game, where he almost put one in too.
Yeah, I was like, I remember that they were. I don't know, they just brought a lot of energy. Obviously, you're coming off the bench, but I just felt like it was a slightly different dynamic with them in there. Maybe a little less controlled and a little more kind of like reckless attack, if you will. Yeah. At least when they first came in. Which I enjoyed. I mean, I like that you can sub people in and kind of switch it up. But yeah, like you said, I think it makes sense, especially with the game coming up next Tuesday. I should know this. I have like tickets to this. but yes, I guess that makes sense. Like when you have the roster that you do and with these things, that in between and other little tournaments that you're going to have to kind of like work other folks in so you're not burning everybody out.
Yeah, good roster rotation. That's the key of the game. Yeah, the 25th, that's Tuesday, right? That's how time works. Yeah. Yeah, it's on Tuesday. Okay. Everyone, we figured it out.
This is when we play a Nebraska team that is from some other league.
Union Omaha of USL League One, of course, everyone's favorite foe.
Is that the same league that STLFC was in?
No, so they're in the USL Championship, so League One is
Okay.
kind of their lower league per se.
Oh,
The
okay.
third tier of the pyramid, if you will, Ian.
Wow, so even worse. We can't lose to them.
Yeah,
I say
that'd be
very
bad.
scared.
I have faith in this team's ability to get things done against not say lesser opponents, but lower league opponents, especially with like they did pretty good in the US Open Cup last year with a lot of the same players that you'll see in these games.
I like the idea of that, like, in other sports, if you're playing down to like another team, they're still in your league. There still technically should be some amount of parity depending on what sport you're in. But like, yeah, it's just crazy that then you can play these other leagues. And like, so these people technically are worse, but then you could lose because maybe that's just what you're thinking the whole time.
Some of my favorite stories in soccer, like these professional teams losing to guys who are like semi-pro at best.
I mean, that is fun. That is like a nice story where you're just like, yo, dude, this guy like works at Schnucks. So like, and he just walked you. So maybe pick it up.
This guy like is an elementary school teacher.
Yeah. He has to go to sleep later, like at a good hour.
Right. Oh yeah, he would have left that game early this weekend. I didn't get out there until 1:00.
That's crazy. I was going to mention that too. Is like, how did they think about making this a Sunday game at any point?
So from what we were told, there was talk that like it was on the table to reschedule this game for noon on Sunday, but the players wanted to get this game in. I think like everyone that's already down there, like I don't know. There's like I think the number was 15,000 people that end up sticking around. So
yeah,
it's like still a good amount of people stayed down there, and I think it's good. It's good that they played this game.
If there hadn't been a tornado and our power had went out, I was really tempted because I knew that it was supposed to be rainy and gross. I was like, I'm gonna wait until the game starts and see how low these tickets go. But yeah, like that was still looked like a pretty good turnout, especially for how late it was and the crummy weather and everything. And yeah, I guess I can get that from like a player's perspective, especially too, is like, I'm already here. I've already done all of my like pre-game stuff. Like, I don't really care what time it is. I'd rather just play than like have to like reset.
Yeah, and I think it'd been like weighing on them a bit, just coming off the 2 straight losses and like wanting to get back on the right track, and like then you get up for the game. Yeah, I think you want to play that game at all costs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so let's finish talking about this, Ian. Cincinnati do get a goal back in the 67th minute. This one is kind of on Pedro because he gets caught up the field a little bit after just coming on, a little bit of overzealousness, I think. But I don't know. You can't really get too mad about it. So Cincinnati gets one back. 5-1 is the final score. XG-wise, it wasn't as much of a blowout from the run of play. And some of that is game state. You go up a lot and you're not pushing as hard, but St. Louis at 1.74 expected goals, Cincinnati's 1.44, and Carnell and Lutz both said that they didn't really feel like this is a 5-1 win, so like not getting too high after a game like this. That doesn't mean that we can't get too high.
That's right. I mean, I know it resets. You play a new team. You play Colorado on Saturday and everything, but like it does make you feel really confident in how they can score and how often they can score. And again, against a team that's really good, that's whatever they are now, like second in the East or like first at the time. Like it's very encouraging, I think, especially given the fact that they've been playing teams that were good, but maybe not like the best yet. I mean, they played Seattle and lost to them, to be fair, or whatever. And like they played San Jose and they're pretty good. And beat them, but like, yeah, I guess it's like you've played some Minnesotas, you've played Portland, who should be better but isn't, Austin, who should be better but isn't, sort of thing. Salt Lake, that looks like they're pretty bad right now. But it's just
Yeah.
sort of like, yeah, there's not this premier team other than say Seattle that you've played to this point. Um, so yeah, I mean, especially getting that one back and saying maybe you're like, hey, we're 500 against like really good teams or whatever. You haven't played a LAFC or an Atlanta or whatever, so it
Yeah.
feels good. I
That's
don't
the
care what they
game.
say.
That's the game that scares me is the LAFC game because I think that like LAFC and Seattle are kind of the at least in the West. Like I still think they're probably the best two teams in the league. But I would throw Philadelphia in there as well as like top thre. But like LAFC is a team that has no mercy too, and I feel like could potentially just blow our doors off. So we got a little bit to look forward to there.
I was like, that sounds fun. I kind of want. I mean, I like how MLS is a little more. Maybe it's not more rowdy, but I just feel like people get more in each other's face. I guess
Mm.
You know what there actually is. There's a lot less hand gestures. I feel like in Premier League, there's lots of talking with the hands, and in MLS, even though half of them are from Europe anyhow, that like it's just very
Not
a lot
enough.
more
It's
like physically aggressive. I don't
not
know.
enough like Central Europeans. I feel like that's where like the
Oh
Italian
yeah.
quota in this league is not
Oh
very
yeah, that's true.
hand gestures.
The amount of hand gestures and just like wide eyes and just looking at the ref, like the ref just told you like the moon's made of cheese or whatever. I just love how blown away people can be by calls. Like, oh my god, are you insane? And it's like five of them all doing the same thing. I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's like kind of a rough and tumble league, and I sort of like that. So when I think about like playing LAFC and thinking they could like blow our doors off, I'm like, are we gonna like fight them?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yeah, probably if you're at home or whatever, get the crowd into it.
I felt like this game at times like should have had a fight in it
Oh
between.
yeah, it got
Yeah.
chippy. I mean, I suppose that's what's going to happen when you're up pretty heavily, like especially even at the half or whatever. But
Yeah, and I think
yeah,
like when you have a team that plays hard, you're always going to have those like kind of towing the line kind of plays that just get people mad.
hmm
The disrespect.
there wasn't a bunch of penalties though in this game, were there? There weren't like a bunch of yellow cards or anything that I can
No, yeah,
remember.
I thought it was a pretty well like controlled game for sure. Like I don't
Yeah,
think the referee really had a impact on the game per se.
yeah. There was no Ted Uncle.
No Ted Uncle. It was not a Ted Uncle experience, gladly.
I
They
gotta
had
learn
an,
about all these guys. I found a list of all and their rankings.
oh yeah. Ted Uncle had a game last week too. I think it was in the Cincinnati game. That was like just everything you would expect out of Ted Uncle.
I love that man.
What a guy. What a guy. Okay, so looking ahead to next weekend, St. Louis play Colorado, who have actually put together a decent run of games the past couple games. They're still terrible, but
I was like, were they all ties?
they drew Austin FC. They drew LAFC 0-0. This was a game where LAFC like rotated all their players in the middle of Champions League. So take that with a grain of salt. They beat Sporting KC 1-0 in the most boring game you could have ever watched ever. And they drew Charlotte 2-2 last week. So still 11th in the table, averaging 0.6 goals per match. So that hasn't gone up with the 2 goals last week. Not like I think that you walk into Colorado fully expecting a multi-goal lead in this one,
Yeah.
but
I mean, that'd be my
strange
hope.
things do happen.
Yeah, that'd be my hope given the fact that, yeah, like they're right now smack dab between Austin and Salt Lake, two teams we've beaten, not in the playoff picture currently. Like, I, I think, yeah, I think I hate saying it because we're new and everything. Like, this is a game that should this feels like one of those old hat things you say for a team that's been around for a couple of years at very least. But like, yeah, this just feels like a team you should definitely be able to beat given how they've been playing.
Yeah,
Even on the road, I mean, I think that's impressive too. Is like they're 6-2-0, and that's 3-1 and 3-1. So like, you don't have this feeling like, well, Colorado's not great, but it is on the road, could be tough. It's like, yeah, they've gone into Salt Lake, they've gone into Austin and stuff, and they've won those games. So I'm expecting a win.
yeah. I think like worst case scenario is they try to replicate what Minnesota did, which is just like keep everything nice and compact, try not to let us open the game up much. And like that is maybe where they see some success. I don't think that they could score enough. Like that's my problem with the Colorado teams. I just don't know. I think that like City's defensive structure is so solid that even in a game with, if they were going to come into it like the Minnesota game, even then, like you're looking at a 0-0 draw or something like that. Like I just don't see them going up 1-0 and then holding on to that lead.
Right. Man, I didn't even realize we had the best goal differential. I mean, by like a goal or whatever compared to some others, but still, I'm like, damn. 11. I guess that'll happen when you put a 5 spot on somebody. But
yeah, erasing the 4-0 loss to Seattle.
Yeah, that's right. That's a distant memory.
We don't even remember that. It's
Yeah,
a
that's
different
right.
team 2 weeks ago.
That's right. That's totally different. That was like the first time I realized there were like, I don't know, like in-person soccer fans or whatever, like 12, 13 years ago visiting Seattle, and we were like downtown and they were just about to start a game. There's like a ton of people and like Sounders stuff. And I was like, what the hell? There's people going to like soccer game? Okay, cool.
People watch this. Awesome.
Yeah, I was like, all right. Who knew?
Seattle Sounders,
silly folks.
Seattle Sounders, not in backyard soccer, so it's understandable.
Yeah, so how am I supposed to know? How am I supposed to know that they exist? I know about 5 of these teams. I'm upset that that New England Revolution are no longer some weird 90s crayon logo or whatever. It's upsetting.
That truly is like the last bastion of the old days of MLS. Like once they got rid of that logo, which was a mistake. I hope that we can all understand that it's just a big mistake.
I just wish they were the only ones. Everyone's kind of got like a badge and a shield, and I just wish they just had their wacky 90s logo.
It'd be great, like them, or if Columbus went back to the old Crew logo. I feel like that would be like everyone with these like fresh multi-person designed logos, and then Crew just has with their like 3 dudes like construction hats on.
I like that you could like find those people. They're like just real enough. They're like, okay, that's 3 models they put together for this. That guy's the person. Oh man. Colorado, like, have they been good in the past, or have they ever been good?
I mean, okay, so Robin Fraser, I think, is a good coach. I think that last year they had a decent run, but I wouldn't say they've ever been good. I think their only designated player is the player they got from a different team that they just decided to take on. Like they don't spend the money in this league to be a good team outside of like a surprise run here or there, because Robin Fraser is a like good soccer coach, you know? That's kind of where I would put them.
You can drag them into being relatively relevant. Well, how can you be so bad when you have Rapid Man, you know?
That's right. And they have the best mascot in the league. If we should not get away from this conversation without talking about that.
Adam Wild / String Cheese Man / Rapid Man.
Because City doesn't have a mascot, right? Like I haven't seen a City mascot outside of people wearing ravioli.
Yeah, other than the ravioli head man. But I've seen people call the team like the Dogs. Do you know what this is?
I have no idea what this is. I've seen it. I have zero idea, and nor do I buy into this any sort of non-owl related mascottery.
I don't know if I like that. Yeah, like we're the Owls, and I think that's always has been such.
Right. It's always been the Owls. They've always played in the roost, and anyone that tells you otherwise is frankly mistaken.
Ever since this owl talk, I see a lot of owl stuff like everywhere, and it's kind of like when you buy a new car, get a new car, and then you see it on the road everywhere. I'm like, man, has been there this much owl stuff in the world before? Did I know this?
They run in the shadows, and they don't want you to know that.
That's true. That's true. They are a shadowy cult.
All right, so that's enough talking about Colorado. I think we've gotten our message out there. Everyone understands.
That's about as much as we need to talk about them.
I guess predictions wise, Ian, what do you think happens? What's your final score prediction in that game?
And I'm gonna say 3-0. I'm gonna say 3-0. Klaus gets a goal somewhere in there.
I like that. I like that prediction. I'm gonna say 1-0, and it's a boring game. That's it.
That's fair. I'm waiting for our first draw, and I'm waiting for our first draw at home just to see. I understand. I don't mean to be mean, St. Louisans. I know everyone in that building knows that draws can happen, but I'm sure there's some that don't. So I'm kind of waiting for when that happens, and the game just ends, and everyone walks off the field, and you're like, "Where's the shootout? Where's the penalty kicks?"
With all like the fanfare that happens after a win, and you don't have like the anger that comes after a loss. It's just like, oh, okay, I guess we could just leave.
Wow. It is funny that I've evolved into that being like, oh, that's fine, versus like much younger me being like, I just wasted my time. This is a
Well,
waste of my time.
As a Tottenham fan, Ian.
Well, that's a waste of my time for different reasons.
Yeah, so let's talk about Union Omaha a little bit. I don't know if we're gonna have a podcast before next Tuesday, probably not. So Union Omaha, of course, that's who St. Louis will be facing in the US Open Cup. Of course, St. Louis teams love them some US Open Cups. This is a game that should probably see a good amount of rotation. I think Cardinal talked about it a little bit. This is a game that expects to see Jensen and Pedro, and I don't know, maybe a different formation. Throw some stuff at the wall, you know? It's not a game that I see them losing at all.
Yeah, it's definitely one that I hope they win because I'll be there. But yeah, I can't imagine them losing this. And if they do, that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of fun in a silly goose sort of way. We're like, well, okay, guess it's not great.
Focus on the real competitions.
Yeah, that's right. They're like, I don't care. This isn't even about the MLS. I told my wife that it wasn't the MLS game, and she's like, "So why are you going?" And I was like, "I'm kind of proud of you for thinking like, well, that's stupid then." But I was like, "But no, it's fun and it's cheaper." So there you go.
It's a real capitalist mindset she has.
Yeah, that's right. Don't waste your money on this crappy Union Omaha team.
Union Omaha
sounds like a bank.
Sounds like, yeah, that's exactly what it is, right? I guess it is the Bank of Omaha that used to sponsor all the.
There you go.
You remember the Jack Hanna's animal show that was sponsored by Bank of Omaha, I think, for some reason.
Yeah, this is burned in my brain. Remember, I didn't know I had.
Folks, what I'm saying is Omaha Zoo. It's good stuff, I think. But they lost to North Carolina FC this week. They have a game this weekend as well they have a game today, it looks like, in Charlotte Independence. So, I don't think it's a game where this is necessarily, the best that USL League One has, nor is it a game that, City should necessarily play down to that level. I don't know how much more analysis that needs, but I feel confident.
We'll talk about in depth when we pants them 10-0.
Right, or when we lose 3-1 or something.
I mean, it is kind of interesting though if you use younger guys that haven't had as much exposure just to see what they look like and everything. Almost use it as a measuring stick game in a way.
I could see Miguel Perez can more of a start and full run out versus usual 60 minutes not start game. I think it's a good game for those guys to really have an opportunity. Kill Watts, I think, has been playing really well too. I'd love to see him in an actual full game too. So excited about that.
I like that. It's kind of cool. You can have a weird sort of prospect game in the middle of your season or against other teams. I don't know. Makes for a variety.
We'll have our cup roster. So speaking of cup rosters, I guess we should move into some roster news. That was a good segue.
That was good.
It came out over the weekend that in the courtship of Bobby Firmino, the Stephen Ground #1 player, I believe that's the ranking that he has him on.
That's right, him and only him.
That the two teams that have officially offered Firmino's camp a contract so far were St. Louis City and Inter Milan, but they won't know because Firmino has insisted on not talking contracts until the end of the season. So I don't have a lot of faith. I just want to say that St. Louis beats out Inter Milan, also Real Madrid. There have been a lot of rumors this week that they would bring him in as a backup striker, and I just don't have enough of a homerism in me to think that looks good for St. Louis.
They might come.
Maybe he just loves MLS and the prospect of building a brand in St. Louis that he'll.
This is the place to do it. This is where brands are built.
Mm-hmm.
Emos.
Exactly. Yeah, Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Number 2.
Look, Bobby, you can be on commercials that run for 5 years after you make them.
That's right. Do you want to be in a Dobbs commercial that premiered when I was in high school? Because you could still be on it. You can still be selling stuff for you.
I think Martin Brodeur is still on the Enterprise commercials to this day. So
yeah, that's right.
Why would he not want to be a part of that?
You should have some homers and believe that he'll come here. I remember at one point thinking that maybe John Tavares would come and be a St. Louis Blue, and I think I put that at 50-50. Legit. So you know what? There's a chance. I mean, I don't know. It's cool that they put in a bid for him or that they
Yeah.
like tried.
And like I think one of St. Louis's favorite sports pastimes is convincing ourselves that players will come here when they'd have no interest in it.
I know. We're a great town for families, and so he doesn't have a family. Like, yeah, but maybe he'll start one.
He's from Brazil. I don't know if he
Does he know about us? Does he know where we are? Has he ever is he married? He can meet a nice Midwestern woman. That's what they all do.
Yeah.
I think that's why they all stay.
Has he heard of tornadoes before? He's played a lot of his career in Liverpool. Like what? You know, St. Louis is better than that at least.
He only knows about the rain. The terrible, terrible rain.
He's gonna get here. He's gonna see all the sunlight and not know what to do with himself.
That's right. I wouldn't know. That's a little scary.
So that's where we stand on the Bobby Firmino watch. Litz's continued courtship is ongoing, but I also believe in that man to some. Like I feel like he could talk you into anything.
Right? I do wonder. Like I know he's German, but then when he talks, I forget that. And so I'm like, oh, he's got this accent. And then I'm always thinking like he's very like much like a salesman. That's what I think of him as. I'm like, oh, he's really good at like selling this team or selling players on this team or selling this team to the city and everything. I'm like, you know, I bet you could get someone
in his own quirky German way.
Yeah. His weird German ways. I bet he could get some sort of player of interest to come over here. You know, I mean, I suppose he already has or whatever with what we've got, but I just mean, you know, someone maybe you've heard of across the pond.
There also reports that Leroy Sané and Sadio Mane are on the outs in Bayern as well. So like Sadio could potentially be looking for a way out, and there's still that connection there as well. So like there are a lot of high profile players that'll be available this summer. That's the nice thing about MLS too, is that like, sure, you have to wait till the middle of the season, but it's not like you're necessarily competing with like all these teams in your league. You're bringing in players from like elsewhere, and I don't know. There's a lot of options out there on the table, I think, and like at least you know the caliber of player they're going after.
I like that. I like that too, especially given like the record and everything. At least you could sell like a winning team, and then you can also, it's just like easier to bring someone over possibly.
Yeah. Show them river to pair, and they'll be it.
That's right. Sometimes there is water here.
Yeah, there's a lot of geese. The geese are very territorial. So be careful. But Ian, I don't want to take up more of your time. There's something that I think you would like to talk about. So I want to cede the floor to you and your Tottenham Hotspur.
This is normally Steven's time to talk about Liverpool or not talk about Liverpool.
Right. Liverpool, a team that beat Leeds United 6-1 yesterday. Steven, of course, decided not to use this as an opportunity for his victory laugh. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, come on, man. We won't grill you. It's fine. Man, it's rough. I feel like it's the same thing every freaking week, even though they won the week before. But I don't know. I thought it was funny. I saw someone that put a thing that said, other teams, the manager that we currently have isn't cutting it. Let's try a new direction that's going to hopefully bring results and make fans proud. Spurs, you know, that Conte bloke we just sacked. Well, here's his assistant that's been with him for almost his entire coaching career. He plays the exact same style, only worse. Enjoy. Because I think that's what it was for me. I didn't quite realize the connection there until last week when I was like reading up on this guy, and I was like, oh, I see. This is just Conte Jr., and this is why this team looks just as bad, if not possibly worse.
It does reek of like Conte is like, all right, I guess I'm out. You want to stick around, or you want to come with? You're gonna stay for a couple minutes, all right?
Yeah. I'll, end of the season, maybe you come with me, but yeah, you can finish up. It's painful to watch them still play like this defensive game that A is boring and B actually yields very little results in terms of like, well, we're good at defense, like, but you're not actually. You're good at like slowing a game down, but like you're not good at preventing like opportunities. Like it's just now Bournemouth is approaching the box slower, but they'll score. They're just not coming at you with speed anymore.
I've
And then
never
this is
seen like
no,
a
go ahead.
momentum. I've never seen a momentum graph. I guess I've seen it before, but very rarely where like Tottenham has all the momentum, but also you'll see these ball icons like on the board in the side. You're like, how did they score these goals? They had zero momentum going their way.
Oh god. I mean, yeah, at least in this one there was a lot of pressure by like Spurs throughout the game, but it just felt like anytime they gave up an opportunity, it was like a big opportunity.
Mhm.
And then this is like I want to say this is the second time in 3 games, at least in the Premier League, that they've allowed an extra time goal, like at extra time at the end of the second half. And it's like, this is infuriating, especially when you score a goal at the 88th minute. Like you're like, okay, now we're up, we're tied or whatever. We're tied, we're gonna get a draw at least. Like that's a pat on the back, I guess. But like it was better than losing. And then they let in one with like 5 minutes in extra time in the second half. And it was just like just completely demoralizing. You're at home. Like you were saying, it's like a trap game because Bournemouth is like, are they in relegation territory? Or are they
Yeah,
just above?
they're well now they're bumped above, but they're very much in that fight.
Because of the win. Yeah, it was just like I don't know. Every week I look at the table, I'm like, well, if you can just keep pace with like Manchester United, maybe you can stick around, try and get to fourth, at least stick around in fifth. And now I'm like, I don't know if that's even going to happen. Are you even going to be able to finish top five at this point? Like
Hmm.
you most certainly can, but like, will you?
Yeah, this
uh,
like it. I no longer have faith in that though. Like Liverpool is starting to play better. Brighton and Aston Villa both have like, and Aston Villa are on kind of a crazy win streak right now. So like that, I don't have a lot of faith in Tottenham being able to like stay in that final Europe spot really.
Yeah, I was like, you play Newcastle on Sunday, so that I mean, great, fantastic. But the thing is, like, probably maybe it is a fun game. Maybe they do win because it's again, I feel like they play
Mm.
good teams halfway decent at least. They might lose, but they play better against them, and then they play the crap teams terribly. So like Newcastle, Manchester United might be totally fine games, or at least entertaining enough. But then, sorry, Steve, but they'll probably shit the bed against Liverpool because they're not very good, and then they'll lose to Crystal Palace, and then at this point, it's like, okay, I don't even care about your Aston Villa Brentford game. Like it's just like you gotta, even if you play those good teams well, I don't have faith, like you're saying,
Mm.
that these last 5-6 games of the season you're going to win or even like win convincingly. And with the way the standings are now, like what, they're fifth, they're only 3 points up, just a win up on Aston Villa. I didn't even realize it was six, so maybe they'll play decently there. I don't know. They played well against Brighton, or like well enough, but like,
Yeah.
man, it's just it's hard. I really want this team to have like a big turnover, maybe not personnel wise, like on the field. I mean, there's obviously some changes they can make, but like even just with the coach and everything, because I kind of having jumped on this team a lot more in depth this year, I kind of want them to start over so I can like turn a page with them and be like, okay, now I'll start, instead of
Yeah.
being like, oh, for the next 4 or 5 years, enjoy crap or enjoy Kane leaving and like just yeah, I don't know, man. The only bright spot is that Son's like been scoring now, so I'm like, okay, he's coming on a little bit. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not enough, obviously, but like I was worried when he had like a hat trick and one other goal for the season. Um, I
Yeah,
don't
I don't
know.
know like how you don't find a manager whose like entire purpose is just to build an offense around Sun, like with the skill set that he has. And it's not that I don't have faith in the players that Tottenham have. Like they obviously have a talented roster that like should be top four probably, but with like the way that Sun plays and the way that like Conte didn't get the most out of him, it's or like at least didn't even structure his offense in a way that's getting like favorable results from him, I think is unforgivable.
Yeah, it's like you're just wasting assets, and I also feel like goal scoring is something they could improve on. Sure, they're not Man City, they're not Arsenal or whatever, but like they are like third, I think, or like with some people nipping at their heels and like goals for,
Hmm?
like goals against, like you're the worst in like the top half of the table. Like, like it's not good. I won't say it reminds me of certain teams coached by certain coaches that were um, supposed to be very good defensively, and then you would lose the defensive game and be like, well, that's not like that was your bread and butter.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole point of
that's
this.
the whole point. You're bad at this now. And it'd be like, oh, that's okay. I'm like, you can't give me that excuse that that's why you don't score. That's why you're not an attacking team, and then be bad at it. I felt too like this game definitely felt like this weird mirror game where like they pressured Bournemouth and then Bournemouth would score on like some turnover, and I'm like, isn't this Tottenham, or isn't this what Tottenham's supposed to be? And I'm like, oh, God, this is frustrating.
It's like exactly what the momentum map looks like too. It's like sustained moments of pressure, and then all of a sudden Bournemouth scores. Sustained moments of pressure, Bournemouth score. And
well, all I can ever see now is that freaking crescent moon or like half circle of them just like piddling around out, like freaking 30 feet outside the box, and just being like, okay, well, at some point we'll cross it to Kane, and he's a great player. He'll miss it, because it's maybe not delivered well, whatever, and he'll look around in shock and put his hands to his face, like, how could he? And I get to watch that like 8 times. And I'm like, yep, there it was again.
GIF repeating over and over again.
Always looking around at like nobody.
Yeah, it's an interesting run up to like the end of the Premier League season, because Newcastle United, Manchester United. I said Newcastle and United, but it runs together, so I apologize. And Tottenham all play each other. Like Aston Villa plays everyone too. Like everyone's gonna have direct impact. Yeah, I'm interested to see how the season ends. It looks like Manchester City has a date with Real Madrid in the Champions League and probably is going to win unless they somehow can't get past Real Madrid. But I think that they're the best team in like the entire world right now. And we'll probably beat Arsenal by the looks of it as well. What a year. What a year.
Do you think Arsenal in danger? Are they in danger?
I think so. Like we talked about this a little bit last weekend, so I would love to know your thoughts here as well. But I think like this past weekend did not do anything to throw me off that set. Like Arsenal draw again. Manchester City beat Leicester City pretty handedly as they're like rotating players for Champions League. So yeah, I think Manchester City is just on a superhuman run of form right now, and Arsenal are starting to slip a little bit. And there's enough of the season left where Manchester City are only back 4 points, but they have a game in hand. And I do believe, hold on, let me look at schedule. So I'm pretty sure they play each other. Yeah, and then they play each other at the end of April. So
it'll be hot. Yeah, how you draw to Liverpool and you draw to West Ham. I mean, you draw to Liverpool, so sad. Not fantastic. I mean, that'll be a really fun game. And yeah, what is that, like pretty much 2 weeks? Next week. Oh, damn, next week.
Next week, all right.
Shit. You got Newcastle then later for Arsenal. Yeah, I mean, like they could do it. They definitely can. They're still leading by 4 points, but like it's just I feel like especially that game that you can't lose the Man City game then.
No, yeah, I have zero faith. I'm ready to just hand it to Man
City. I'm sure Jeff is happy. I'm sure Jeff was already on that bandwagon before you. I'm sure he's already given up.
Yeah, well, that's good.
That's what you want.
Well, right. Well, folks, thank you for coming along this wild ride with us. Ian, thank you for talking with me and for letting me take over Steven's job this week.
Oh, of course. Steven's, you got to bring him down, got to knock him down a few pegs. It's too big for his britches. He's down in Miami. Who goes down to Miami? That's that's coke dealers and the very rich. And sometimes, that bisects it.
Yeah, sometimes both in Miami, in Messi's case, I believe. There's a picture floating around of, I believe at the Getafe game in Spain, where they're like 3 guys hanging out like in a palm tree, like trying to get a glimpse of the game. That's how I sent Steven down there to try to get glimpses of Messi. So if you see someone hanging out in a palm tree, that's probably him.
That's right. Binoculars and all.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk next week. You will actually have a addendum pod coming up. I'm talking with Ricardo Caminelli, who covers the Rapids. We're going to talk a little bit about what to expect from that team as St. Louis faces off with them this weekend. But until then, we will talk later. So adios.
See ya.